Good morning to you all. I hope you're all doing good at home, staying safe. Well, I'm back again with the class 4. Let us resume with the next part of our topic, that is the contribution of Indians to the world. Well, in the last few classes, I was explaining about the name and the history of India. Then we came across with the impact of geographical features in India, and of course, we also dealt with the special features of Indian history. So, under the special features of Indian history, there is one more important factor that is to be mentioned here, is the contributions of Indians to the world. Well, a question arises. When we said that India has a history of more than 4,000 years, what did they contribute to the world? Many civilizations across India, they also contributed. But what are the significant contributions from the Indians to the world? Let's examine that part first. Now, related to this topic, as I've already listed down, Indians were great in the contribution towards literature. Many number of poets, many number of writers emerged in the ancient times during many dynasties. Definitely starting from the Mauryan Empire, or even related to the Karnataka or Tamil Nadu or Andhra or Kerala or any parts of India, literature was always been patronized by Indian rulers. Their languages, we will deal with that next part. But there were many number of literature dealing with all aspects of mankind. So, this is the first and prioritized contribution of Indians in the field of literature. Whether it is any other medicine or animal husbandry or anything for that matter, everything is being stated in the literatures. Second one, philosophy. India is a land of philosophy. Well, when we say that philosophy, we could also mention that there had been many great rishis or acharyas who came out with a wonderful philosophical contributions, which even today many people have followed it. May not be the Indians, don't take it in an offensive way, may not be the Indians, but definitely the Westerners are following the philosophical contributions that were given by the ancient rishis and munis. But in fact, to mention some of the names here, definitely I would like to refer about Shankaracharya, his philosophy, or maybe even I could say with Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, or our own Karnataka's Acharya, or a movement that was started by Basavanna. So, all these things and their thinking can be related as philosophy. Moving across with another important factor is, an interesting factor is music. Well, Indians were definitely lovers of music, and of course, Indian rulers were very much fond of music. So, in that part also, the Indians have contributed. Carnatic music was again a noteworthy point that has to be highlighted here. Then, coming towards another important factor is the dance. The classical dance, or the Bharatanatyam, which also occupies a high place in the history of our own country. Bharatanatyam, or even we can consider whether Kuchipudi or Kathakali or any other factors, any regional dances that had been originated from an ancient time, is again a contribution of Indians. Architectures. Already in a previous class I made a mention that at every step in India, the rulers have contributed with the monuments. There are different varieties of architecture. It could be related with a palace, fort, or tombs, etc., etc. All these things are again a contribution of the Indian rulers. That is again a contribution from Indians to the world. When I mention about the architecture, there are again different styles, which I will explain it in a later stage. And in this year, you also will be learning about different styles of architecture. So, in that particular point, I will go into depth. But whatever it is, now let's come back to this point. As an architecture, there are a lot of monuments, sculptures that had been gifted by the ruler. Sculptures. Different places in India has got a lot of sculptures related to Hinduism, Jainism and Buddhism. If I have to mention Gandhara, well, regarding the sculptures, Gandhara is a best example, all I can relate here. And even different rulers of India have also contributed enormous sculptures. Whether South India or North India, there are ample and abundance of sculptures that one can see. Next one, science. In the field of science, we Indians were richly enlightened. We were enlightened rishis or enlightened scholars lived in the ancient times, and they contributed towards a field of science. Different science. Definitely with the Vedic sciences are some of the attributes. Science. It could be with the mathematics, or it could be with the gravitational law, or any other factors for that sake. So India also contributed in the field of science. Yoga. Definitely India is a home of yogas. The rishis during the Vedic civilization who practiced yoga, and time immemorial it was carried on as a legacy from one generation to another. And of course today also we do have the concept of yoga in India, but unfortunately it has attracted the foreigners than the Indians. If an example have to be related here, you can see during the time of August or September, many number of foreigners do come over to our nation to learn about yoga. So once again we could relate here as India was a home for India were the pioneers of yoga and its practices. Medicine, important factor. Herbal medicines or the so-called Ayurveda, once again, is from our own country. Things have changed in the modern times, but whatever it is, we could say that medicine in the field of Ayurveda was once again a contribution from the Indians from many centuries. Moving across, another important factor, mathematics. Well, the world before, when other countries were still developing, we Indians were much ahead in the field of maths. And of course, in the field of maths, we Indians had contributed a digit. That is a contribution from the Indians. In the field of mathematics, we could say that 0, decimal system were all given by the Indians. Astronomy, today we do have many number of astrologers, but from during the ancient times, astronomy was considered as a science by various astronomers. For an example, Aryabhatta. We cannot forget the name called Aryabhatta in the field of astronomy. There were a few more others, but Aryabhatta can be considered as one of the greatest astronomers in the ancient times. Education, I had made a mention that Indians were ahead of other different civilizations in the past. When few nations or when few modern day countries were still in a developing stages, they were still struggling to walk. By then itself, we Indians were ahead in the field of education. During the time of Vedic civilization, all the Vedic rishis had contributed in the field of education for the sake of to lead a better life. So you can just imagine how much was a contribution made by the Indians. Just imagine if all these things were not there, if all these things were not contributed by the Indians, what would have existed? Absolutely nothing. But tremendous contribution in various fields, we have to consider it as an important factor. Well, I was just going ahead with the contributions to the world in that part. Let's now discuss about the architectural and cultural monuments. See, as I told you many occasions, that India is a land of diversified kind of attributions. It could be in terms of literature, education, or science, or religion, or coming towards the architectural part, or the cultural monumental part. It has a tremendous contributions that had done to the world. In the list of architectural part, all we could relate here is some of the fort. In terms of the fort, in terms of the hill fort, there is again palaces, there are again temples and monuments. But in the list of these ones, I just have related with few examples. Some of the forts of India precisely about Karnataka. All I have mentioned is about the Chitradurga fort, one of the glorious fort which is made on the rocks, ruled by the Nayakas. And Bijapur fort, sultans in the Deccan had ruled over Bijapur. The forts in Bijapur are tremendous to see that. Gulbarga fort, once again the sultans of the Deccan had brought Gulbarga under their control. So the fort at Gulbarga attracts many number of tourists. And that's Bellary fort. For another kind information, I thought of passing it to you. Now related with the hill fort. See, India, the hills that have been converted into the hill fortresses. To mention some, Rajasthan. Rajasthan region itself is very much rich in hill fort. Say for example, Jaisalmer, another classic example to note about the hill fort. Going ahead with another important factors are like Ajmer fort. All these are natural fortresses which are found. Kangra fort at Himachal Pradesh are few hill fort that we can mention under these hill forts. Moving away with this one, palaces. India is again a land of more than 80 palaces. Approximately more than 80 palaces are noted in India. Of course, to be more precise, let me just say about Mysore. Mysore itself has more than 7 to 10 palaces. So, one among the glorious, world-famous palaces, our own Amba Vilas Palace, where the Dasara festivities commences during the Navaratri period of Dasara in Mysore. Another beautiful palace that one can visit is Lalita Mahal Palace. Though it has been converted into a hotel today, but still it is regarded as one of the palaces in Mysore. So, apart from all those things, anywhere in South India or North, we have got many palaces. Udaipur Lake Palace, that's again a classic palace that one can see ahead in the northern side. So if these were some of the related part about the palaces, temples. Temples is another great contribution by the Indian ruler. Religious factors were an essence of India from ancient times. Rulers, it shows, when temples, when we mention, it shows that how the kings had patronized the religion, though they were religious tolerant, at the same time they had contributed in the terms of building temples. There are a lot of temples dedicated to either Shaivism or Vaishnavism. Shaivism means the followers of Shiva, Vaishnavism means the followers of Vishnu. So major temples are dedicated to either Shiva or Vishnu. We cannot estimate how many temples are there in India, but there are few temples that are brought under the radars of heritage sites. So these are the contributions in the temples. Next one, the caves. You might be just wondering, sir, what's the significance about the caves? See, before the commencement of architecture, hilly caves in the northern centers or in the northern India during the time of Mauryans and Shatavahanas, caves. You understand? So in that way, cave architecture itself is one among that. Tomb is another important factor of contributions. Dynasties, many rulers during the medieval period, they themselves had built their tombs while they were alive. After their death, they were buried in those specific regions. So in this way, India has also been a place of all these various attributions as a contributions. Still it's not over, etc. Still it's not over yet. In terms of architecture and monuments, World Heritage Organization had specified around 30 places in India as a heritage sites. Precisely talking about Karnataka, Hampi, Aihole, Pattadakal, Badami, then coming across with the Somnathpura, Belur, all are related under the heritage sites. So in India itself, there are about 30 heritage sites, irrespective of different directions. Sun Temple of Konark, Jantar Mantar, Khajuraho Temple, and the list just goes on. If I have to deal with all those things, it will take a lot of time anyways. So, well, if these are some of the architectural and monumental factors in the field of yoga or in the field of medicine, Sushruta, Charaka were the great surgeons whom we had in India during the early centuries. We were pioneers even in the surgery factors. Plastic surgery, what the doctors are exercising in modern times, it's not a new concept. It is an old concept which we Indians have contributed. You understand? Patanjali, as you all know that today we have got all the Patanjali products. The name itself suggests that it was a contribution of Patanjali in field of yoga, which Indians have tremendously contributed to the world. All these factors make a wonderful contributions to the world. Already I have made a mention, education was not lagging behind. Education did not lag behind during the ancient times. It had far ahead, it had progressed. There were many ancient universities. There were many universities that had made many students across the globe to come over to India to study about the concepts. The list goes on. The list goes on for the few ancient universities. In today's modern times, you are aware that there are entrance examinations. In those days, any candidate or a student acquiring a seat in these universities, he had to give the entrance examination. Based on that caliber, he was inducted into these universities. Of course, the output, the candidates who pass out from these universities in the ancient times were recognized highly and revered to a greater extent. So, in this way, there were many universities that existed in India. Unfortunately, Nalanda was destroyed during the time of Khilji dynasty with all the manuscripts. Even only the remains are found, but we only have the legacy of these universities. So that's a gloriful field of contribution in terms of education. Ujjaini, Kanchi is actually in Kanchipuram or in Tamil Nadu, which was contributed. It also has contributed enormously in the field of Buddhism and many more other concepts. So these are the various contributions of Indians to the world. Music also is one among them. Dance is another form which I have already mentioned. From your exam point of view, this question is there for 1 mark and 2 mark. As like, name any 2 ancient universities. Out of all this, you can mention any 2. So these are the important contributions to the world by the Indians. Next one, next topic, India as a place of attraction by foreigners. What made the foreigners to come over to India? That is the next important factor or the next important point related to the special features. As in the eyes of foreigners, you might have, we already have covered with the physical features. In that particular factor, I had made a mention that India is a land of hills and mountains and rivers. So, foreigners were attracted even for these things from times immemorial. From the ancient times, many foreigners, once again, the same old Persians, the Greeks, the Shakas, the Hunas, the Turks, the Arabs, and many more foreigners came to India because India in various places has a natural resources which attracted them to come over to the India, either to loot or to this country. So these are some of the important factors related with the special features of India. Last one in this part is unity in diversity. Now another important factor is the places why the foreigners came to India. As an important the present scenario, India is one of the major tourist center. It's an attraction of a tourist hub. As other important factors related here, it has got many number of places which has a scenic beauty. Why do a foreigner come over to India to experience some of the scenic beauty? Just want to relax himself from his stressful life. Just want to ease off his mind. We have got many places in India which has a wonderful scenic beauty. Hill stations, we cannot forget about Ooty or Kodaikanal in the south. Or if you visit towards the northern side, Shimla, Darjeeling are again another important hill stations that one can definitely chill out his holidays. Himalayas, where one can definitely experience an adventurous sports in terms of tourist centers. Many adventuring people are there who are interested to have a mountaineering. So Himalayas provides that kind of a facilities. Kashmir Valley, paradise on earth. We Indians can definitely be proud of paradise that is in earth in forms of Kashmir Valley, rich valleys of rivers and mountain. A beautiful place that one can definitely dream of visiting at least once in his lifetime. Obviously, there are national parks in Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, or even in the northern sides, where he can experience or he can see the wild animals if he is fortunate enough. Of course, beaches. South India, whether it is Karnataka or Kerala or Tamil Nadu or Andhra side or parts of Bengal region or any other sides of Odisha, beaches are tremendous in relaxing one's own mind. During the time of summer, definitely I would have definitely visited the beaches. Goa would have been the best ideal spot for the vacations. But unfortunately, this year, nobody could have their proper summer vacation due to the pandemic diseases. But anyway, tourism has been a tremendous income for the country. So in India itself, we have got so many tourist centers. Of course, there are again few foreigners who visit the country for the sake of gaining some historical monumental places of knowledge. So in that way, different people visit India, and India have always been a caterer for these foreigners. Tourism is once again a revenue for the country, it's a revenue for the government. So most of the times you would have seen many foreigners in India visiting places with the huge cameras or video cameras. Whatsoever, India is one of the major tourist hub. So in that way, this is again, the country is an attraction for the foreigners. And unity in diversity. Now, what are the significant diversified forms in India? We could definitely say that India has got a geographical diversities. Geographically, India has got different kinds of features. If you visit Himalayas, as you know, it's a snowy region. If you visit the Siachen place, it is extreme cold. If you visit towards Rajasthan, as you know, it's a desert region and the temperature here raises up to 50 degrees. Siachen might be minus 60, Rajasthan is 60 degrees Celsius, too hot to tolerate. If we visit towards the South India, it is a tropical kind of a climate that exists. So each place in India has got its own taste of climatic conditions. So these are different diversified kind of a physical features that exist in India. Next one, linguistic diversity. When we say about the linguistic diversity, already in my previous classes, I have been telling you, India is a land of varieties of people, culture, custom, religion, languages. And once again here, the linguistic diversity is one of the major fact as an important part in this unity in diversity. South India itself, if you take it as an example, how many states are there with the different languages? If you take Karnataka, Kannada is a lingua franca. When you look into Karnataka, Kannada is the official language. That is the lingua franca of that region. If you visit Tamil Nadu, Tamil is the official language, or that is the lingua franca. If you visit towards Kerala, Malayalam is the lingua franca. Or Telangana or Andhra region, Telugu is the official language of that region. So like that way, if you visit any of the northern India, Rajasthan to Rajasthani, Maharashtra, Marathi. So each states in India has got its own lingua franca. But all these people are living in harmonious way. But still lingua franca depending on the languages of different states. And all these are a beautiful products of India that nowhere else in the world or in any other countries that you can find so many varieties of languages. Hindi, after the independence of India, it became the official language of our nation. Since an ancient period, Sanskrit Sanskrit was the ancient language of India. And the common people during the time immemorial, during the 5th or the 6th centuries, they had Pali and Prakrit language. Though today you don't find, Pali and Prakrit were the ancient languages in India. The common man, the tongues of the common man spoke Pali and Prakrit, whereas the higher classes spoke Sanskrit. And this remained as a lingua franca for many centuries. For many centuries, Sanskrit was an official language for a long time. And after that, during the medieval times, we could say that Persian language became an official language during the middle of the medieval times in history of India, whereas Hindi became in modern period. In between, we cannot forget one more official language or the lingua franca, that is, due to the advent of Britishers, English also became a language for a long time. While their stay in India, all the official things were corresponded in English. So as a matter of fact, as an example once again, in India, there are 22 languages that are recognized by the Constitution of India, whereas approximately more than 2000 languages exist in India with the dialect. There are certain languages that does not have any script, but still it is spoken. So more than 1600 languages are given in your book. From your exam point of view, if a 1 mark question arises, you can mention that part very well. But as a reality factor, more than 2000 languages exist in India. Approximately I mentioned it. So that is the beauty about lingua franca under the linguistic diversity. With all the indifferences of languages, we are all bounded together. And that's the beauty about India. We may speak different languages, but still there is a unity that we can find in India, perhaps nowhere else than India, that you can find so many varieties. So I hope that you are aware and understand with this point of linguistic diversity. Next one, we deal with another important factor as a social and racial diversity. What is this social and racial diversity? See, as I made a mention, with the coming of the foreigners to India, when the foreigners came to India, they stayed in India and their culture was also amalgamated with the Indians. How? With the establishing of matrimonial alliances. When the Persians came, some of them stayed back. Then they did not return. Greeks came to India, they settled in India. Of course, the Shakas, the Hunas, the Turks, you understand? So all these people, when they came to India, they stayed back. With their staying back in India, that entirely opened a new epoch in the history of religious part or as a social factor. In the other way out, we could say that there were different races that originated and that had stayed in India. Say for example, the different races. Under the social and religious diversity, India, as a matter of fact, as you are aware that many historians have given it a different name. Vincent Adam Smith says that India is an ethnological museum where we can find multiple ethnics. As the same factor, it is a museum of different religion, different customs, different culture, different faith, different food, different dress. It is a place where you can find a multiplicity of all these attributes for the way of life. And another important thing is, as I made a mention, it's all existed due to the coming of different races or the different people from different other countries. As a matter of fact, I just made a mention that there were different races that inhabited India. One is Negroid, another one is Alpine, then we have got Mongoloid. Of course, the original inhabitants of India were Dravidians. The South Indians were the Dravidian race, they belonged to the Dravidian race, as well as the North Indian, they believed or they were Aryan race, they belonged to the Aryan race. So like that way, these are the different races that are inhabited in India. They came from different places in India, and due to their existence, there had been number of changes. It occurred in terms of language, culture, and various other factors. Am I reaching you? So in this way, these different races, if you look to the people, South Indians, it's very obvious, no offensive please, South Indians, we are comparatively brownish, or maybe we could say that very dark in our skin. When you compare to the North Indian people, he is quite fair. So Aryan race usually it is resembles fair. So these were the original inhabitants of India, but coming of these people, it had changed over a period of time. So regarding these aspects, again there is a 2-mark question, different races. Now with all these factors, how this has affected the society? In India we have got different practices. We do have practices such as patriarchal society, matriarchal society. We do have, under the patriarchal society, we have got the father as a head of the family. Under the matriarchal, we have got mother as a head of the family. So these are one thing. And marriages are again another important factors. And when you look into the marriage factors, monogamy, then we have got polygamy and polyandry. Under the monogamy, as you are aware of it, man having one wife. Polygamy, man having more than one wife. Polyandry, a woman marrying more than one man. So these are some of the social practices as in the field of marriages. Now related to the different caste, Hinduism has been the oldest religion of this country, making way for another few more other religions such as Jainism, Buddhism, and in later times arrival of new other more religions such as Judaism or Jews, Islamism, Christianity, and in between another one which is called as Sikhism. All these religions had stayed in India, yet different diversification are there, but all having a religious harmony. Hinduism along with other religion are living in harmony in our country. If we look into the social and religious diversity, different races are there, different practices are there, different religions are there, but yet they are living in harmony. One more if you want, you can add it up. Parsi. So in that way, different religions exist. Food culture, when we are mentioning about the religion, definitely the other thing comes into our mind is festivals. Festivals, food culture. Hinduism or Buddhism or for that sake Judaism or Islamism or Christianity, everyone has got their own religious sentiments, they have got their own culture, they have got their own traditions which are a beauty to observe. That's the reason why Vincent Adam had said it as ethnological museum. There are many religions, but yet we are living in harmony and peace. That's the beauty of these religious diversity in India. Next one, economic diversity. So let us wind up here. Next factors, I will explain it in tomorrow's class. Till then, stay home, stay safe. I'm sure that you might have some of the queries. Whatever queries are there, you can write it down and you can click it on the link, send it to me. Much easier way, I'll try to sort it out. I hope you are able to follow my class, and I hope there is no confusion in the classes as soon as so far. So stay home, stay safe. We'll meet for the next class. Thank you.